So I'm in the grocery store, I think 2 days ago, something like that. And I'm in the frozen food aisle, coming down through that area there. And the next aisle over, I hear this conversation happening as we're coming down through there. And I just couldn't believe my ears. And of course this is going on a lot, but I live in an area where there's a lot less evil than where some of you live. So some of you, this is probably normal, but for me it was quite shocking. And I overhear this woman trying to look like a man, but that's another issue. And she's talking about this boy she knows. I don't know if it was a relation or whatever. And she said that around 9 o'clock in the evening, this boy's ready to go to bed. And if the adults and the other people in the house aren't ready to go to bed, that this child will start to cuss at them. He'll start cussing them out, swearing just a blue streak and whatever. And this woman telling the story, she thought this was just so funny and so cute. This boy, he'll just use every 4-letter word in the book and just cussing at people. Get to bed, and the whole thing. You say, how old was this boy? 3 years old. She thought it was funny. Real disgusting piece of garbage to think something like that. Oh, Brother Brian, you don't know where her heart's at. Oh, yes, I do. If you can laugh about that, you're a very dark individual. A child of hell. To think it's funny for a 3-year-old child. Because you see, a 3-year-old child, they're not doing that of their own free will. They've been taught that way. That child has not been allowed to make a decision one way or the other. And, in the past, it would have been, hey, don't use that kind of language. Watch your tongue. I knew lost people that would actually wash their children's mouth out with soap because they'd use profanity. That's for adults. You don't talk that way. Now, it's funny. But it doesn't end there. And I don't know if this was part of the joke or if this was actually true. But she said that this poor boy, that their last name is Hole. And they named him Ash. Ash Hole. Like I said, I don't know if that was actually true or if she was just, furthering the joke there or whatever else. But if that's true, that they would actually name a child that, that's disgusting. And I thought about that and I thought, I'm going to make a video on that. And I'd like to ask the body of Christ to pray for that boy. To pray fervently for this boy named Ash. If it is, in fact, a true story. And it sounded like it was true. It wasn't that's a funny joke or something. No, it sounded like they were, this female personage was actually being honest about it. And I'm thinking, quite frankly, the Lord decides to take that child out of that family situation, take the child home, go into eternity. The Bible says that sin is not imputed where there is no law. That child doesn't understand anything yet. He doesn't know his right from his left. He knows how to use profanity, but he doesn't know his right from his left. And so what I'm saying is, a child in that situation would be better being taken home to be with the Lord. If you know what I'm saying. Because I'm sure that there's other types of abuse as well. Be it substance abuse, secondhand smoke, and whatever else. And I knew a woman the one time, and she was raised by a drug addict mother, and she said, as a little girl, she had to take care of her mother while her mother was passed out on the sofa or on the floor or whatever, and she had to make the meals and do things and help her mother out as a little girl. That's disgusting. That's a terrible thing. Put a child through that. So, pray for this boy named Ash. That the Lord has mercy on that child because he's obviously not being given a chance. Just so disturbing to think about that and to see that. But I'm going to look up a scripture here quick, which I got to thinking about this whole situation. In the book of 2 Peter, the Bible says, see, where should I start? I guess verse 4. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment, and spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. You have to remember that Noah, in his time, he only got 8 people saved, including himself. 8 people saved. Most, modern hirelings would say that that's terrible. Only members of your own family. And he's called a preacher of righteousness. As in the days of Noah, so too shall be in the days before the coming of the Son of Man. Oh, you're not winning many people to the Lord, you personally. When's the last time you won a soul to the Lord? When was the last time Noah led one? Pretty wicked in his day, pretty wicked today too. So you can make false converts all day long, but truly saved people, that's a different story. There's a lot of very evil, very wicked people out there. But continuing with verse 6, 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 6. And turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. Sodom and Gomorrah were turned into ashes. God destroyed them. Why? Because they were destroying themselves. Did you ever think about that? What was Sodom and Gomorrah's sin? Self-destruction. So no, it was just their lifestyle. They had a different lifestyle. That lifestyle was destructive. You have men marrying men, pretty soon there's no children being born. Pretty soon that society ceases to exist. See, it's not that God hates people's sexual orientation or choices or whatever, and he's such a mean guy, he won't let them experiment. You're sterilizing yourself. Some kind of weird genocide type of a thing that you're doing to yourself if you're into sodomy. Think about that. God destroyed them before they could destroy themselves. And you need to think about that when you get into this sodomite stuff. 2 men together, 2 women together. It's a problem, scientifically. I mean, if you want to say I'm an evolutionist, okay, then you should be even more rabidly against sodomy. Because if you believe in evolution, that the strong survive, then sodomites won't survive. They can only survive through ideology. They cannot breed, they cannot have children. Think about it. I mean, if there's a tree out here, a tree species, that has to be planted by hand, and it's susceptible to disease, like sodomites. How long is that tree going to last out here? Growing with the native cedars and pines and spruces and firs, and then all the hardwoods, the maples and beech trees and whatever else. The tree won't survive. Okay? Same thing with sodomy. And evolutionists should agree completely with me on that. They say, well, I guess these people have been chosen by the gene pool or whatever, by evolutionary processes to be exterminated. I don't teach that, but that's what evolutionists should believe. But let's continue here in 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 7, story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. Conversation in your King James Bible is a much more detailed word than our modern conversation word. Conversation can mean actions and speech. How do you know? Continue, verse 8. For that righteous man dwelling among them, in seeing and hearing, vexed his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds. Did you know it's an unlawful deed to use profanity? Did you know that? Just like yelling fire in a crowded theater, that's an unlawful deed. Well, using filthy language should also be an unlawful deed. Well, Beaver Logging Incorporated is working here in the area. You can see right there, they felled this tree. So, amazing, one of God's creatures right there did that logging work, felled it, and he felled it towards the water. Beavers almost never miss. Interesting. Yet man with his chainsaws, modern chainsaws, they fell trees the wrong way all the time. You can see plenty of videos on YouTube about that. But Mr. Beaver comes along there chewing away. Right out into the water. Amazing. He learned that from millions of years of mistakes. Right. Well, if you make mistakes and you die because you can't survive the winter, well, then you're not going to evolve. But anyhow, verse 9, the Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. Had a brother, friend of the ministry, write me, and he said that his job is really getting to him, and there's just a bunch of filthy, profane people there, and they tell dirty jokes, and they're using the F word, and they're, I mean, real quality, intellectual type of thing to use, you know. I mean, it used to be that they didn't even use the F word in movies, but then it's been popularized by perverts like Joe Rogan and some of these other devils, and now you can just use it. Everybody uses it, you know. But this brother, he said, you know, what should I do? As a Christian, should I be there to witness to the lost, or should I just say, okay, I need to leave? Well, there's some things that are, you're to do things in moderation, right? Now, the Amish, they don't practice moderation and the issue of separation. And they say, we're just going to go off and we're going to intermarry within our own circles. And I don't mean, you know, within your ethnicity. I mean, they're intermarrying with, you know, between families and cousins and things. That's a problem. But, you know, and then they get into the thing, we're not going to use electric, kind of, you know, they do. They're hooked up to the grid, a lot of them. And it's all about money. Oh, I hear something. Sounds like it's probably a bush plane. See if I can get out here quick. Yeah, it's a bush plane. Look at this. There he is, it's taking off. Hopefully you can see that. Don't know if I got that or not, but he just took off from the lake here. Really neat. That's Oliver's dream. He wants to be a bush pilot, landing on lakes and everything else. No runway needed. No air traffic control tower. Oh, look, lake looks good. Land on it. But actually learned that it's easier to land on one that's a little bit choppy than one that's just glassy smooth, because the choppy one you can see where the water's at. You can gauge how far away it is and everything else. But anyhow, getting back to what I was saying there, if I can remember, it's kind of neat seeing that. You don't get to see that very often. I've seen plenty of bush planes going over, but one taking off like that, that was special. But, you know, this brother said, you know, should I get another job? Should I leave? Well, yes, you should. Again, separation. All right. Now the Amish, they take it too far, and they, you know, they make this separate little thing, and then you have to dress differently and drive in different vehicles and live differently and whatever, which a lot of times they don't. But it's all this, you know, worldly separation stuff. But for a Christian, you don't just say, you know, I'm going to move into the most evil, wicked, vile place, and I'm going to be a good witness to that there. Well, if that's true, then why did God tell Lot to leave Sodom and Gomorrah? He delivered him. Lot was just, and Lot had some issues. He really did. Some morality issues, we'll say. But he delivered just Lot, got him out of the city. Why then would God tell a Christian to go in there? Well, so you can be a witness to the lost world and things. You know what would be the best witness to the lost world? If Christians everywhere just say, you know what, pulling out. Let's get out of these cities. Let's get out of these wicked places. There's no standards here about, using profanity on the job site and whatever else. Okay, then I'm leaving. And Christians started to establish their own businesses and started to move to areas where they could practice their faith without a bunch of weird cross-dressing perverts trying to force their ways on them. And all of a sudden, you would see God start to pour out his wrath on a lot of these wicked sinners. And they would start to think, maybe, just maybe, there's something to this Christianity. But see, professing Christians are so enmeshed with the world right now, here in America especially, that it's just sort of a, I don't know, how do you even judge that whole system? How do you make the separation of God's children with the lost world? And I think it's 2 Corinthians chapter 6 talks about having no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. Okay, you're supposed to get out. You're supposed to be away. I look back at my own life. I was going to be a professional wood turning artist, and I was going to bigger shows and getting into bigger art galleries and things, and the Lord stopped that, because I would have gone into it and I would have ended up in hell. I know that I would have. Going to these places and the girls dress for success, and show as much skin as you can without getting arrested for indecent exposure. And I would have fallen probably for some girl like that. And it was back before I was saved. I probably never would have been born again. And now I look at that whole world and I think, boy, I'm sure glad the Lord delivered me. I'm sure glad I get to live in a place like this. And I hear people and they say, kind of imply that this is some kind of you have to be wealthy to live out here. That blows my mind. No, you have to be dedicated. I couldn't afford to live in the city. The prices of housing and things and rent, whatever else. You talk about expensive. You say, well, the cost of living out there. Well, the cost of living, maybe it's a little bit more to go to the grocery store here or something. But I don't think it's that much more. And, you get a decent vehicle and you drive sanely and whatever else, you can live very cheap. Not to mention the fact that there's a lot of things that you can do out of nature to grow your own food and forage for your own food and go out to lakes and catch your own food. So, but should Christians get out? No, I think that you should just stay there and just spend your whole life wishing that you could do something and never getting it done. Because, you get to have another life and another life and another life. No, you get one shot at life, brethren. You need to think about that. As many of you know, we've been around for a while. For the new subscribers, I was born and raised in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and I saw my hometown area, which was when I was a boy, back in the early 1980s, when I was old enough to understand things. I started to see the buildup of my area, and just looking, there's somebody's trash floating out here in the water on a beautiful lake. You have to be a real sick individual to just come out here and throw your garbage into the water. I don't think I can get out to it, unfortunately. Yeah, there's somebody's bottle of water out there. You can see it out there, right there. I was fishing the one time many years ago, and some woman came, she was changing her baby's diaper, the disposable type, changes it, throws it into the river. I just looked at her and said, what are you doing? What? Get back to the city, please. But I'm forgetting what I was saying. Just the thing of living out here. That's what it was. Born and raised in Lancaster County, and I saw things getting built up, and I thought, I don't really want to be around that. And I was dreaming of moving away I always dreamed of moving to northern Pennsylvania. That's why my wife and I went up there after we got married. Went to help at a Baptist cult building and store and things. That whole debacle. Ugh. Back in 2013. And but you know, I knew I had to leave the area. I knew I was going to be a poor man living in some dead-end street or some little development or whatever and things. And you know, and if you live that way and you're happy that way, okay, fine, whatever. I'm not trying to put you down, but this is where I belong, out here. And there are compromises, there are things that you have to do. It's a difficult life sometimes. I've been working hard, you know, 12, 14 hours a day, getting things done and moved around and lifting heavy objects and all the other stuff, you know, just, it's a hard life out here. And I'm looking to get log length firewood sometime within the next month or so. And then I'm going to be sawing and splitting firewood for next year, because I didn't get a good chance to do it for the new property this year. Got some for my land where we were living. Got some firewood done there, and I have to haul that to the new property. But the whole thing is, it's a hard life, but it's worth it. And you know what? You might have to make some hard decisions, brethren. You might have to say, we're willing to make some sacrifices to get away from these wicked people. You need a sanctuary in this world. You know, you need a place to, like the old hymn says, take time to be holy, speak oft with thy Lord, abide in him only, and feed on his word. You're going to need to get away from some of the evil. And of course, if you understand what could be happening in the not too distant future when this country finally collapses, you might do very well to get away from the evil of the city or an evil job. And don't think for 1 second that the scamdemic stuff is over. When they see people submit like that, they'll try it again eventually. And so make some sacrifices, do some things. We did, and it was rough. We went through some rough times, but you know what? It's worth it. I wouldn't trade this here for going and living in some town or whatever else. So, you know, I remember the Baptists tried to keep their claws in me when I was leaving Gasland. There were some other Baptists that were offering to help and come be part of their church building and all that stuff. And wisely, I said no to them, and I'm glad I did. And you know, moving to northern Maine in January 2014, buying an old rundown house. Again, if you don't know the story, no heat at all. That's fun to do, you know. Washing dishes and scrubbing potatoes when it's 18 degrees in the kitchen, 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Hands are bright red, hurting like crazy. You say, would you do that again? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, have some adventures in life, brethren. Find a way to, you know, do something so that you can have great memories. So, that's going to be it. I might do one when I get up to the summit. But we did get internet. I have internet in my office. Still waiting on the house connection. This Pioneer broadband thing is going really long. I don't know what's happening there, but it's getting rather irritating. And so we're still working on some stuff there, but thankfully I can actually get to doing more research and more things. I don't know where that airplane's going. Can't see him. He seems to be circling that bush plane there. So I don't know if maybe he's just taking people out for a little joyride or something, or I don't know. Could be he picked up some people and he's flying them back to one of the wilderness camps in the Allagash. I don't know. But, so hopefully you've enjoyed the video. This is getting tricky here. Getting to remember here how badly in shape I am right now. I need to do more hiking. So, but there's the trail behind me. And we're getting up towards the top, up towards the summit. That's where it gets really rough. But you have to keep your wits about you out here. Kind of like you have to do with life. But it's worth it. Brethren, don't have regrets in life. This has been my dream to come to a place like this. And the Lord's helped me to fulfill that dream. He's blessed us abundantly out here. So I'll leave you with this beautiful scene. And we'll see you in upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.